For us as South Africans participating in this extraordinary summit called upon by the current chair of SADC, as part of the main decisions we got out of the summit held at Victoria Falls in August 2014, we got very clear marching orders from our leaders that in this time and era, we need to seriously go into the radical economic transformation of our region. And they felt because we are endowed with this mineral wealth, we talk a lot about beneficiation, but we should go beyond that. We should use our regional indicative strategic framework and implementation of the integration of our economies to really focus on industrialization, so that we're not only perpetually, as we've been known in the past 300 years, known as the providers to the international market of raw material, that we think we have built some basic requisite skills and we can attract more to start focusing on industrialization, so that we are also able to trade fairly with the international community by also exporting beneficiated or finished goods to the outside market. This comes at the time when we were to adopt, even at that moment in August last year in 2014, the second version or revision 2 of our IRSDP. But our leaders were in a great hurry. They wanted us to have a complete plan, which now really emphasizes on this industrialization as we talk of integration of our economies, and also how do we finance integration of economies which cannot go on without integration of our infrastructure. That infrastructure built must talk to each other so as to also respond to our RISDP now looking at industrialization. If you want a master plan of sorts of industrialization, it will mean that there are certain items that can better be produced in a given area and then the other in another one. So in that way, there's complementarity. So when we also talk of issues of intra-trade, there are practical manufactured goods from our shores, or even amongst and in between our countries that we can be talking of. For us in South Africa, this fits in very well with our national development plan, then the SADC's RISDP and Agenda 2063, as we will be hosting the summit of the African Union in June this year. How am I putting these linkages together? We champion an African a diplomacy of Ubuntu that says we work for a better South Africa whose interests can better be safeguarded by a developmental and safe and secure SADC and the continent. It is when our own people believe in themselves that they get the requisite skills, that we invest in them as our best resource, even before we talk about gold and platinum and other things, that we can make achieve the goals we are looking forward to. In our delegation, the delegation that is led by President Zuma, is the Minister of DIRCO, it's the Minister of Trade and Industry, it's the Minister of Finance, amongst others, because we should be saying what informs our foreign policy, particularly on the economic diplomacy in our region, in our continent. Because outside the RISDP, there's also this plan which has been adopted where we're looking largely at the implementation, that of the tripartite. There's a free trade protocol of SADC, SADC-wide trade protocol, but there's a trade protocol that's almost nearing conclusion, that is which will include SADC, EAC, and COMESA. All these things are happening at the same time and augurs well for a better South Africa in a better developmental and secure continent of Africa and a better world. So we are with the Minister of Trade and Industry because they have to be saying, what is it that we are manufacturing? What is it that can be better manufactured where? Where do we get the partnership between government and our industrialists from all over our region and our continent? But lastly, how do we also equally finance? Because these things would need to be financed. But if we work in silos, we would not be able to. But if we were to work in partnership, we think we can go a long way. There are joint projects that we can talk of, like the Lesotho Highland water project, which is now we're going to phase 2. It's a real win-win, and it's taking place here in our region of SADC.
And then again, Minister, this meeting comes at a time when there's xenophobic attacks in South Africa. We cannot ignore that this won't be raised in this meeting. But how is this a summit or the call for the development of the industrial strategy going to tie with the rest of the continent, the rest of the SADC region and the rest of the continent calling for integration, regional integration, whereby we won't have nationals or foreign nationals flocking into one country in the SADC region and even beyond the SADC region going to South Africa. This beneficiation, how is it going to really to help?
Well, I think we first have to start where we come from. That we were colonized, we were brutalized by apartheid, we were turned into second-class citizens in our own countries, including in this one. So as we gain our political freedom, we are finding it difficult to transform radically our economy in the region. This migration that you are referring to largely at the moment is not just about the way we used to see things in the past and all things of the unity of the frontline states and the sacrifices they've made, that they'd worked with us, and that there's no amount of resources that can ever help us repay the sacrifices they've made as frontline states to defeat apartheid with us. So largely South Africa, the new South Africa we celebrated yesterday, 2021, is a product of its people's struggles, but also equally the struggle of its international solidarity, but the sacrifices that this own neighborhood made. Now, it now calls upon us that while we are terribly ashamed of what has happened, we know is that no amount of economic deprivation should justify why a brother should turn against a brother or a sister turn against a sister. But it also says that we've been receiving goodwill messages from several of our governments on the way the South African government, the South African populace have said even if the xenophobic attacks happen in some pockets of our country, not here, not ever. So we think that message has come out right, but then therefore, we should continue working together like we did in the past to work with the symptoms. Because if you say not in my house, not in my neighborhood, not in my country, not now, not never, it means that you are going to, without hesitance, deal with the symptoms. One of those is erratic economic migration. That if it doesn't work here, I think I can just walk and it will work somewhere the following day. So if we were to work together in making sure that this wealth that our region has, in line with the vision of our leadership, that after the frontline states had achieved decolonization and have fought and succeeded against apartheid, we need to integrate our economies. This is what should be happening now.
And maybe finally, Minister, are there maybe any sort of projections in terms of economic emanating from this industrial strategy?
We think it can only look brighter, because we really don't have the challenges that other regions of the world have. South Africa, the region of SADC, has been negatively impacted upon by the 2007-8 global economic and financial meltdown. But what we have that the others don't have, our best resource, growing populations. Our people are our best resource. If we continue skilling them in the kind of skills that we need now and in the future. Two, when we talk of industrialization, we're also really practically talking about beneficiation. Three, proper identification of projects that can do much, much better, faster in a given location in our region than in the other. But also working together to improve the lots of many of our countries in the neighborhood as we integrate our economies through infrastructure integration, be it through ports, rail, roads, exchange of information. I don't know why we should be importing food from somewhere else when we've got more than 60% of our land that's arable, that's fertile, despite the vulgarities of climate change. I think we can turn around this. South Africa has just signed an INGA treaty, which is ratified by both the Congo and the South African Parliament, not just governments. But it's not for us. It's so as to enable us to implement an old vision of SADC, that one of bringing about all the energy mix, because there's other resource we have which we're underutilizing, in order to unleash the real energy of our people. I'm very optimistic, and I also have reasons why I should be optimistic. We've got our people, we've got our resources, we've got our plans, we've got our determination. We've defeated colonialism and apartheid working together. This time around, we are defeating xenophobia because we are working together. We will work together, turn around the economic fortunes of our people, because we've got very young, agile, educated people who do not want to be counted or listed. We will build strong economies in our region. We will build or implement our regional indicative strategy and framework for implementation. We will link that to Agenda 2063 as we integrate our trade. You have something to, if you want to trade, you're going to have to something to trade with and some population to consume that. So this is all integrated and is no longer a pipe dream. It's here.